Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hi, my name's Dave. This is Spaced Out Radio. How y'all doing tonight? We're going to have some fun. Sweet Robbie G and our special guest, Little Terry Hall, are here. We're going to get into the topic. What's with ufology? What's going on there? It seems like a big mess. We're going to get into that tonight. Robin Haynes will join us a little bit later. But first, we got to say hello to each and every one of you, including Race Fan in the gold medal position. We got Tim Mothman in his goatee with a silver. Christine Lynn with a bronze medal tonight. Chris Laker, Kitty Caddywhack, Robert Lamoth, good to see you. Hi, Michael Morris and Frankie B. T-Bone, my man, how you doing? Good to see you. Hi, Brown Dwarf. Thanks for coming on in. Mel WD40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show because he always wants you to go into a show nice and smooth. No rigidness. No, none whatsoever. So we're going to continue on here with roll call. All lubed up. Eternity Eternal, Cosmic Joe, and Joanne Lee the Bee. Nice to see you all. Hi, Digger Dog. Good to have you here. Little Timmy James, how you doing, my man? We continue on with our roll call tonight. S. Vermette is here. S. Vermette will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Thomas Rock, how you doing? Operation Shutdown. Good to see you. Noble Patrick, thanks for coming on in. Cosmic Joe, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. We very much appreciate everything that you do to support us, my friend. Thank you very much. Al Garay over on Twitch swam 750 laps in Olympic time. Olympic qualifying time. He's ready. Ready for Terry and Sweets. Come on in. Ozzy is back. Ozzy will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Hi, Pam Harris. Renee BK, how you doing? Long time, no time. Mama Catherine. Mwah. I love you, my dear. Hope you're having a great evening. I really hope you are. Society of High Sciences. Welcome to SOR chat. So we continue on to the roll call. There's Richard Minnick and Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. That's a playoff home run tonight. Nina Williams, how you doing? And Richard, thank you for the love with that awesome super chat. Greatly appreciate your great support of SOR. Thank you very much. Continuing on, Enrico from Calgary. How you doing? Good to see you. What happened with Seth Dave? He got a phone call from a television company or production company or something that he had to deal with. JSCO, John Lamb, how you doing? Resident, good to see you. 1971 Marmaduke, nice to have you back. Jennifer Beveridge, good evening to you. So we continue on with our roll call here. There's Scott B. and Paul Nicholas. Good to have you both here. And looks like we're caught up so far. We is caught up. We are. We got a few minutes here. Well, not really. But we're going to check it on out. Let's make sure everything is closed up there. Good. Keyshawn, how you doing, my man? Been a while. Good to have you back. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Terry Hall is our special guest tonight. What's the deal with ufology? Let's just get into it. It's a mess right now. It's a real cluster of, I don't even know how to put it. Sweet Robbie G from After Hours is going to be here too, as we have them for the first 2 hours of tonight's show. Want to remind everybody you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. It snowed here today. Frickin' snow. Yeah, snowed here. What the hell was that? It wasn't long, but it snowed here. Yeah, ridiculous. Hi, Phyllis Boucher Perry. How are you? Good to see you. Remember, the super chat is open. Be like Joe. Be like Richard. And enjoy the woo that we're going to bring to you tonight. Everybody, do me a favor. It's that time of the night to throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Jive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Jive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of UFO topic tonight. Terry Hall is going to join us, as well as Sweet Robbie G from our After Hours program, where we are going to take a real deep look into what the hell's going on in ufology. That's the only way to put it. Only way to put it. A shamazel it is. A shamazel. I never get to use the word shamazel on this show, so now I'm using it, because I always like to expand my vocabulary every now and again. Then in hour number 3, we got a busy one. It's a busy one. Swamp Dweller is here with another spooky story. Robin Haynes has a cryptid report. It's Dave 101 night and the weird news of the week. You know, sometimes you just got to do a show like this. You really do, where you bring in a bunch of people that you know, and you just take a look at the topic at hand. Tonight's topic is ufology, and what the heck is going on with it? Between the governments, between the activists, between the mess that is called UFO X, formerly known as UFO Twitter. It has become a stomping point of controversy around the UFO subject. Is it good? Is it bad? What is it? Terry Hall is here with us. Now, for full disclosure, Terry does work behind the scenes on Spaced Out Radio, but he is also an evidential researcher. He's worked on many projects in the UFO world, has a nice Rolodex of contacts as well. Also joining us from After Hours, we got Sweet Robbie G. We love it when these guys are here. Terry Hall, Sweet Robbie G. How you guys doing, Terry? You got to unmute your microphone, Terry.
Not by the hair of my chinny chin was so prominently up on the screen earlier.
You know what? I got to start off that I'm upset tonight. I'm upset. Let me tell you why. Put on a good pair of socks this morning. It's a little chilly. And I go to my chiropractors and I realize I have a hole in my socks. That's embarrassing enough. That hole has gotten bigger. And now my big toe keeps sticking out of it. And it's driving me nuts. Oh, no. I miss totally miss Mr. Bill. But I'm telling you, it's driving me nuts. I don't understand what I like a good pair of socks, okay? I don't wear socks often. Like in spring and summertime and into fall, I don't wear socks. But when I do, I like a good pair of socks. I don't like them to have holes in them.
Driving me why run around all day with a hole in your sock rather than getting in your sock drawer and just grabbing another sock, Dave?
Because I don't have a matching pair to this one.
That's why they're called lucky socks. Just like I told you a little bit earlier. You're lucky if you can find the one that matches the one you have on.
Yeah. So these ones are going in the garbage after the show. They're done. They're toast.
Yeah, I got a story about socks and holes in socks.
Sure.
One of the first times I ever had to go to the emergency room for stitches, I was just a kid. And the doctor came in and he's like trying to comfort me, right? And he told me, he's like, I'm going to fix you up. It's just like going to be like your mom darning a pair of socks. Well, he said that, and I still remember this. I freaked out, dude, because all I could think about was my mom saying darn sock and throwing it in the garbage, right? I thought he was going to cut my hand off.
That's funny. That's funny. So, sweet Robbie G, you like a good pair of socks?
Yeah. If you have a hole at the bottom, the key is to turn it to where the hole is now on the top of your foot, and then you'll be able to get through the day. There's nothing worse than I hate than a hole in my sock and having to deal with that all day.
Well, that works with tube socks, but not on fitted socks, Rob. Unless you want your heel where your ankles have.
Believe me, when you grow, and I know you know this, Terry, when you grow up with less than the best, you figure it out.
You figure it out. Amen, man. Like cardboard in your vans to keep your feet off the asphalt.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's terrible. Holes in your socks are terrible. All my toes are warm except my big toe right now.
I can't believe it snowed up there already.
It did. It snowed up here today. Not much, like it was just a few little snowflakes falling. And I was like, you got to believe it. I mean, come on. It's mid-October. Give us until at least Halloween.
When I lived in Utah there in the Uinta Basin, the old timers there would say that if it snowed before winter, it was going to be a hard winter. And they were generally right. If it snowed before Halloween, I'm sorry, not snowed before winter. If it snowed before Halloween, it was supposed to be a hard winter.
I know Rob doesn't understand what snow is. It's the white stuff that falls from the sky.
I was just going to say, I was like, snow for me, I have to go on vacation to go see snow. Otherwise, it doesn't exist in my world.
Dude, when I lived in the high desert, it used to snow in Victimsville. It doesn't snow. It doesn't snow further out where you're at.
It snows right up in the Tehachapi Pass. So, like, currently, I can go to the Tehachapi Pass maybe and catch some snow if it's low enough. Being in Sacramento, the first, you got to go up to Placerville or Auburn or something like that to get to the snow.
That's what I was going to say. Because my family's there in Placerville.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They get plenty of snow where they're at, but you're up in the mountains in the big redwoods up there, though. Big difference.
We have a La Nina coming through this winter.
Oh,
which means like last year we had a really hard El Nino, which literally cut our snowfall in more than half, which isn't good when you live in a treed area. Okay. But we have a La Nina this year that is supposed to bring in extremely low temperatures and an extreme amount of snow this year. So in the next couple weeks, I'm going to get my good friend, little Timmy James, over here because he's the mechanic du jour to help me get my snowblower ready. Because I'm ready to rock, man. Put the lawnmower away, get the snowblower ready, and we're ready to roll.
I remember several days from last winter. You and I were talking, Dave. What you really need to do is, instead of calling Timmy, you need to call your real estate broker and put your house on the market, move someplace that's not Canada, dude.
Let's just wait until dear leader is ousted and our dollar can actually get back up there where it's worth more than, a Russian ruble. Get there. Okay, and it's not costing me 41 cents to buy an American dollar. So for people who don't know, it costs me about $1.41 Canadian to buy one American dollar. Mm-hmm. All right. So think, for every $300, I get about 160 American. That's painful. Painful.
Dave, La Niña is Spanish, right?
Yes.
Do you know what it means in English?
I do not.
It means it looks like I'm probably going to be filling in for Dave a lot this winter.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it means.
Uh-huh. I hear you. Gentlemen, the reason why I brought both of you in here tonight was because of an impassioned topic. I've been thinking about this for a while. I really have. And that is the topic of the night. Do we really care about ufology anymore? And the reason why I ask this is because there is a lot of things going on that we need to cover tonight. Whether it's this lame duck meeting that's going to be taking place, that they're going to call congressional hearings right after the elections. And, half of those people will probably be lame duck Congress people. There's a good chance of that. It's getting ugly out there and not fun. And Terry, you have been monitoring it from the sidelines. What's your opinion on this, man?
As far as caring about the subject, of course we care about the subject. I mean, but the thing is, the government has established a narrative, and they're going to stick to that narrative. They're going to defend that narrative. And because the government runs it, it's up to them to kind of decide if us as Joe Q public is discerning enough and capable of understanding that we're not alone in the universe. If that's what it turns out to be. And, no matter what it turns out to be, if it's us coming back from the future, if it's dimensional, if it's interplanetary, if it's extraterrestrial, whatever the case may be. So private researchers and people like you, Dave, who have these kind of shows, are for the people like us who aren't satisfied with the answers that the government is providing, or we're not satisfied with the people that we're seeing that are supposed to be the ones that are, let's just say, the whistleblowers. All right. We've had whistleblowers since 2017. Have we seen a UFO yet? Have we seen any bodies yet? Has there been any proof besides just stories and a few videos that we've all taken better videos than that, right? I know you have. I know Rob has. I've seen his. He's seen mine. I've seen yours. And several of the people in the chat, I've seen their stuff too. It's a lot better than anything we've ever seen. So yeah, as far as Joe Q public goes, it's important to have outlets like this, because if we just rely on Uncle Sam, then we're going to get what we got. And that's not much.
Sweet Robbie G, let's bring you in here and give your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's really a mess. Just as Terry said, a lot of talking, but not a lot of showing. And but we expected that. It's been that way for 80 years. So why would it change now? It's going to take someone from the inside to really go against the grain. As Tim James, we were talking with the other day, it's going to take someone to put it all on the line. Someone's going to have to, make their peace with whoever they pray to and talk with their family. And they're going to have to really take a stand and come out and do it for humanity. And look at this. Here's the other part of it. Just recently, they had the drone story come out, right? The drones flying over Langley. They are painting those as regular drones, quadcopters, right? So you see the muddying of the waters continues. They're trying to put it back in the tube, and it's disgusting.
Yep. Well, do we wait for that, or do you do something like a lot of us have done and really put it, and actually you said put something on the line, Rob, and actually put it on the line, right? Take money out of your own pocket, build research vehicles, get the latest technology that the public has available to them, go out and do your research, and then you find out that certain people that you may have been with or something like that do you dirty. That happens a lot in this field too. And do you keep your integrity, or do you get your name up in lights, right? And so it makes it even more hard for people to discern what's truth and what isn't.
Yeah, that's the name of the game.
Well, let's talk about that story in Langley. Okay, at Langley Air Force Base, where these drones were hanging on out, doing their thing, having party time up in the sky. People said that there was a mothership over there for a number of days, dropping these drone-like things, and then the drones would eventually fly back to the craft. Here's the big thing on this that I have noticed. Why are we only thinking or reporting that this is happening over military bases? That's all we ever hear about is military bases, Terry. And I say that because for people who may not know your story, you actually live on a very famous piece of UFO history in Oregon.
Mm-hmm. And I live right across the street from an airport that services a 3-letter agency. So I get Blackhawks that come over to the top of my house all the time. Unmarked Blackhawks. And I can you could actually set your watch to when they come in and when they leave, what days are coming and going. But as far as UFO hotspots and UFO places that hold great historical significance as far as these kind of subject goes, we have to preserve that kind of stuff. But is it worth preserving when you know that half the things that you're seeing is baloney? Half the things that are on TV or probably more than that are baloney. So you have to rely on the sources that you've established that you can trust. One of those is Spaced Out Radio. Otherwise, we wouldn't all have been here for almost 10 years now, And to have people like you and Rob that bring anybody on and have intelligent conversation with to get to the bottom of whatever the subject may be that night, because you guys cover everything, right? And that's another good thing about this place. No favorites. But it's a little bit upsetting because when you go out and you lay it all on the line, Rob, when you get done dirty, it makes you gun shy. And you tend to shy away what could be like golden opportunities. I know several researchers who have built incredible equipment that can almost pick a UFO out before it even appears in our atmosphere. And then once it does, they can track it and tell you what angle it was at and how fast it was going and how big it was. And these guys have taken their money out of their own pocket and built this kind of stuff. it's some of the things that I've seen that in private hands are just incredible. The technology that the public has available to it now is incredible. You can get everything from passive radar. They make cameras now that can see things that you could never see with the naked eye. Full color night vision for next to nothing anymore. So there's all of these tools, but then when you try to present them on a platform like this, you get a couple of different reactions. You get, that's awesome, because whatever research I've done, I've always just laid it out and said, I don't know what it is. You make up your mind. Tell me what you think it is. I don't say it's this, that, or the other. I'm not, this is my truth, and I think that's what it is. I might give you my opinion, but I don't say it's fact this or fact that. But it just boils down to when you try to present it on a platform like this, you either get that's really awesome, that's totally awesome stuff, or I don't believe it, I don't trust your sources, so it can't be true, or is this just for an algorithm? Are you just trying to make money with it? Right? And that can get to be disheartening as well. So caring about the subject is one thing, but trying to be involved in the subject is something altogether different. Is that how you guys feel about it? You're both front and center every night.
I tend to think that it's a part of the game that's being played. The UFO narrative, they are turning this, and they have successfully turned this into that this is something that only happens over UFO military bases, UFOs over nuclear facilities or nuclear launch sites. And it's all to push it towards the threat narrative. Now, I know Rob and I both agree to disagree on whether or not there is an actual threat narrative on everything. But I do find that they don't push the stories that are happening elsewhere. It's always about the military. And to me, that stinks of budgetary costs. Okay, that they want more budget, that they want the billions and billions to look into this. Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah, so we're in the middle of Operation Toothpaste Back in the Tube. And this started about a year ago. This started when the first sign of this is when they delayed the UAP report back in October of 2022. They delayed it for 3 months. They went ghost silent on us. They didn't tell us why. And then boom, out of nowhere, New Year, 2023, January, they dropped the report. Up until then, they had never said anything about shapes. They had actually redacted shapes in the FOIA request. All of a sudden, they come out and say, okay, we are seeing these spheres, these white translucent spheres. Magically, 3 weeks after that, we get the Chinese balloon situation debacle. So that was the beginning of Operation Toothpaste Back in the Tube. We also saw at the end of last year, they drew the line in the sand against the public and said, we don't care what you want. We're going to do what we want to do. And what you're seeing right now is the easiest cover, the best cover story is to say that it's the adversaries. Excuse me. And you know why? Is because we can't, if you're not a spy or you're not in the espionage world, then we don't know, you won't know what they have over there. So they can sit here all day and say, yeah, they developed crazy things over there in China and they're using them over here. Okay, the threat narrative, let's get into that. These things are being seen, like you said earlier, flown over military installations. They said in that most recent report there that they don't shoot them down unless they're posing a threat. So they shot themselves in the foot right there. Obviously, whatever these things aren't posing a threat. So you can't go with the threat narrative at that point. But they're trying to paint it as prosaic drones, just regular quadcopters with some nefarious operator that's...
Sweet Robbie G, we're going to continue this conversation. Why do these only happen over military bases? Is it theirs? Is it ours? We'll find out next on Spaced Out Radio. Terry Hall.
Man, it's incredible how quickly time goes by when you're having good conversation.
Yeah, true.
And I'm going to address a couple of things in the chat here now that we're not on air. Luna, the reason that people don't, and it's not that we don't look into the occult to try to get answers, but when you're trying to present this kind of information, it has to be to the public now, it has to be empirical information, things that you can prove, things that you can repeat, things that you can have a solid basis for. Like, yeah, there was something in the sky. It was this big because of the reflections or the whatever aura that it was putting off. It could have been made out of this material. It was going that fast. It appeared at this time, at this location, blah, 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 blah. When it comes into the occult and things like Jack Parson and those guys did, right. Jack Parson did amazing things. I mean, JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratories, that's why we have it. It's because of Jack Parsons. But he's got this black mark on him because he was an occultist. It really affects trying to present information to not people like us who understand that there could be something else besides that, but trying to make a dent in Congress and trying to make a dent in the government and getting it that done. As soon as you bring the occult up, you're not going to get in any doors in Washington. That's one of the primary reasons why.
What he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, what he said. And I wanted to, Terry, I already know you know the answer to this, but I want to see. I'm going to show you how many people in this chat right now are from the West Coast. All my West Coast people in the chat. I'm going to show you something very briefly. Put in the chat what it is. Most people won't know. I'm going to give them a flash. You ready? 1, 2, 3. West Coasters, what is that? Do you know what that was? Let me see it in the chat. I know you know what it is. If you're from the West Coast, you know exactly what that is.
Well, dude, we used to take those bumper stickers and cut out a couple of specific letters on burger and then put it on the car. You know which 2 letters we cut off, right?
Which one?
The B and the R. So you had an in and out urge.
Look at the chat lit up. In-N-Out Burger, In-N-Out Burger, In-N-Out,
In-N-Out, baby.
In-N-Out Burger. That's all my West Coasters. All the people saying In-N-Out, those are all West Coasters right there for sure. And
yep.
Yes, it is.
Actually, you know, Rob, they actually have In-N-Out in Utah now. A double monster style.
This guy right here was animal style for sure. Brown Dwarf, you already know. In-N-Out Burger. If you come to the West Coast, you got to try it out. I'll save that for the show tonight.
We've got 5 Guys up here. Of course, we got In-N-Out, but the close one to me is 5 Guys.
I like 5 Guys.
Yeah.
They got good burgers.
They do. They do.
5 Guys.
I've even tried In-N-Out burgers.
Next time we go down to Vegas, Dave, there's an In-N-Out right there. We'll go get an In-N-Out.
And we are going to the incredibly awesome, the giant Taco Bell on Las Vegas Boulevard.
Hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab a fresh one.
All right, we got
Taco Bell.
They got a giant Taco Bell.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. Yeah, they got a giant Taco Bell, Rob. It's shaped like a chihuahua, dude.
Taco Bell
in there.
When you talk to a Californian, like Taco Bell is like blasphemy. We have things called street tacos, Dave Scott. You need to try a street taco. You'll never eat Taco Bell again.
No,
we
Taco
actually
Bell's
believe it or not, we actually have a street taco vendor here.
Well, you should
and their
try
tacos are freaking incredible.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Street tacos. Tacos don't have crunchy shells.
Zenza, I am angry at you, dude. I haven't had White Castle hamburger since I was 12 years old, man. That used to be our Sunday special when I lived on the East Coast. My dad would bring home a bag of White Castles.
I've only had them frozen and you pop them in the microwave. That's it.
No comparison. No comparison. Getting them fresh, whole different story, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Big thank you to Cosmic Joe, Richard, T-Bone, and Deborah Rooney for the great super chats. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you go check them on out. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour, Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. What's going on with UFOlogy? Right before the break, Sweet Robbie G was breaking down his thoughts on all of these UFO sightings, and the only ones they care about are over military bases, military training sites, military skunk works, nuclear power facilities, nuclear weapons areas. Sweets, go ahead.
Yeah, just getting back into that. Like I said, it's Operation Toothpaste back in the tube. The threat narrative is not a threat narrative because they said themselves that they wouldn't shoot these things down unless they were posing a threat or showing to be a threat. So that right there in that statement says that these things aren't a threat. Go back to the Jeremy Corbell video that came out with the UFO, the drone swarm around the Navy ships out there. Same situation. They didn't do anything to these things. Same thing on the nuclear installations, over the nuclear installations. They're not shooting any of these things down. They're just letting them be. Now, if you thought for in one moment that those were adversarial, that would just be even if they didn't shoot them down in a moment, that would trigger some sort of response afterwards, and it has not done that. So because of that, that tells you right there that they know those aren't adversarial. But what they are doing is they are trying to, and they have been for the last couple of years since the Chinese balloon situation, is they've been trying to blend in prosaic things like balloons, spy balloons, which balloons, for instance, have been flown using spy, espionage tactics since World War II. So balloons aren't anything new. They've been flying over countries for decades. So with that being said, if you break it all down, there's so many things that point to they can't be adversarial because we would have reacted at some point. And then what are they? And what they want to do for the masses, people who don't really know or aren't versed in the subject, is to get them to believe that these things are just drones and someone that might be flying a drone somewhere. And I think it's, like I said before, it's disgusting. But you know what that means? It means their backs are against the wall. They are really shooting their last shots. They know that they are right up against that wall, and all it takes is for, like we said earlier, that one person to come out and risk it all and tell everything. They know that that's the last step, and it could happen any day, or it couldn't. It just depends. It just takes the person to do it, but they know that they are pushed up against that wall, and it's really not much, before the dam breaks.
Well, Rob, you said you have to establish, okay, they're not established as threats because the government's not taking any action towards them. All right, so let's go back in history a little bit. What establishes these as a threat? In Russia is a UFO hovering over a base, activating missiles, putting them in a ready launch state, to where the next thing that happens is the rocket fires that comes out of the tube, or on the other hand, you got a big red orb hovering over the gate. The colonel's down in the bunker, and the missiles are being switched off. They didn't react. They didn't try to shoot nothing down then. Could the narrative be to the point to where even if they are a threat, what are they supposed to do about it anyway? And that's why they're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, because they still can't admit that they can't defend against whatever kind of technology this is.
Well, I don't think that's the thing. They don't want to kind of lean into the fact that these are anomalous. They want to make it seem like that they are China or Russia sending drones over, or, just like, and what they did was they pointed to a story of, I guess, a Chinese national who got caught flying a drone. They included that in the story, that they caught this guy at a different time flying a drone over a naval yard, and he ended up getting like 6 months in prison because of that, for the Espionage Act or something along those lines. So they tied those two things together to say, hey, we have a China national that was caught flying a drone over naval yards, and then now we're having this drone swarm, and these are regular drones. So there's other guys like this that are actually doing this. So they're taking it away from anomalous and UFOs. The story doesn't paint these at all as being anomalous. They're coming off as quadcopters.
How deep does this go then, Rob, with China? Have you looked up a map of the United States and seen where China is buying all the land up around the United States?
Yeah.
Where is it at?
Right outside of a lot of military facilities. I know they bought land right outside Travis Air Force Base up in Northern California.
Basically, every ground base that we have here in the United States, the Chinese have bought up the majority of the land that surrounds the entire thing.
Right.
So could it be they're trying to prep us for maybe when we do this big we're supposed to be getting everybody out of the country and only leaving Americans here? Is that going to be so widespread that we don't know where it's going to stop? See, that's the point of let's say let's do a mass deportation, right? And you got all of these people saying, yeah, I agree with that. Well, where does it stop? Right? I mean, once you get that ball rolling down the mountain, it turns into a snowball, it turns into an avalanche. So where does it stop? And could this be, hey, because these guys are doing this, we got to include these people too, kind of thing? Or
see, the thing is, two things can be true at the same time. Definitely China is trying to spy on the United States. That's
right.
For sure.
Right.
And they are buying up land, but what they're doing, though, is they're trying to meld these two things together to say that this is this, when these are two separate things. And the thing is that, they are going to lengths at this point to, they're trying everything. They're discrediting every whistleblower that comes out. Strategic plan to go against. And I predict, with the upcoming UFO hearings, that's why they're keeping the name secret, because they don't want them to be attacked. I am predicting right here, right now, that whoever these whistleblower turns out to be, within weeks of this hearing, there will be a campaign against that person trying to discredit, for sure. It happened to Elizondo, it happened to Dave Grush, and it's like, but we're seeing it happen, and it's like, don't be fooled by it, is what, to the general public, don't be fooled by the information that they're putting out there, the misinformation that they're putting out there, because they are definitely trying to roll it back.
Yeah. Don't rely on little 15-second clips. Do some research and find out.
Let's talk a little bit about Lou Elizondo, because the hard part for this was there was so much hype around his book Imminent. And yes, the UFO public really either lapped it up or they chewed it up and spit it out. It was one or the other. There was really no in between. But the thing that caught me about that book is the fact that his own insiders that he gave credit to in the book, like Eric Davis, like Jay Stratton, they have now turned on Elizondo, saying Elizondo never ran ATIP. He never ran the UFO program. What does this now say about Elizondo if these two, who he complimented very well in the book, didn't disparage them at all, still turned their back on the guy? Terry.
That's a half a dozen of one and six of the other kind of thing, man, because since Elizondo came out almost right from the very beginning, the Pentagon said that he had nothing to do with this. This was all done on his spare time, and he wasn't assigned anything here or there. So I think it all goes back to the narrative, Dave. It's just like in archaeology, right? Let's say you got Graham Hancock, who's talking about the Younger Dryas period and how civilization, there was all this advanced stuff, and then blam, meteor hits and we're back in the Stone Age. Here we go. Okay. So now you've got archaeology and saying, no, that's not how it was. The established narrative in archaeology is we started out here and we did this and we did that. There wasn't an Atlantis and so same thing in ufology. They've established that narrative. They did their backstroke with Elizondo when he came out. They didn't say when he presented those videos to begin with, the ones that were released and the story in the New York Times and all of that, there wasn't any kind of blowback right then. They didn't say he smuggled those videos out, but that's what they're saying now.
But so he did. Many of us, like us on SOR, have been saying that from the beginning. And look what happened with TTSA. I mean, they said they were going to build something. I mean, they collected millions of dollars from people and it went nowhere. So does it go? Are they grifters and they just got hoodwinked? These scientists, these names that, that used to back Elizondo up, were they hoodwinked to begin with and they wanted to believe and they were doing their best to push what they believed forward and find out that they hooked their horse to the wrong wagon? Is that what it is, you think?
My opinion is, I don't care if Lou Elizondo was the director of ATIP or the janitor at the Pentagon. I go with the evidence that he brought forward because it lines up with historical data. Okay, so that's what I think people get wrapped up in. They get wrapped up in all the extra gossip, and not us here, but obviously the people out there that are talking about this. They get wrapped up in, did Lou do this? Why isn't Lou friends with this person? Why is this person now saying this about Lou? And that won't move the needle. It doesn't matter.
So what did Elizondo produce, Rob? That was fact. That was truth. That was provable.
So there hasn't been anyone that's been able to bring anything that's technically quote unquote provable, because you'd have to bring evidence along with the story that you're telling. Mm-hmm. So you can't base the truth off of if he was director or not, because that doesn't matter. What matters is that in 1947, the United States government said we had recovered a crashed disc, had bodies inside of this disc. That is historical data on the record from the United States government. So anyone who comes out and make statements that align with that, you have to go and line that up with historical data and say, okay, that's very plausible and likely true, versus if he was director or just chairperson or just the janitor over at ATIP, really doesn't matter. Like, does it matter? Does it make any difference? Does it change anything if he was the director or not? I don't think it does.
So if Roswell was truth, if Roswell was real, if Roswell, like we all assumed that it was, at least people like us assumed that it was, why aren't they releasing anything? Why? I mean, why? Why can't they tell us that fiber optic that we have now came from Roswell, that a lot of the circuit boards and the way that we use petroleum now all was developed from something that wasn't from here. What's so hard about that? I mean, we've been conditioned since the 40s with all of these UFO movies and alien movies, both on one side and the other, whether they be friendly ET go home or alien that's going to burst out of the middle of your chest. I mean, I think we're conditioned enough that they could come out and actually say it if it was the truth.
That's the surface level. That's the cream on top right there, right? Because and we talked about this the other day. Once they admit that, that's not really the big story.
Mm-hmm.
They would probably admit that if that's all it was. But there's more to that story. They've done other things in the line of covering up the information. David Grush came out and said they've hurt people, even possibly killed people. People get threatened all the time by the United States government behind UFOs, and we know that likely they've done things to people as well. So it's not about that. And Dave brought up a point the other day. What if they have a list? What if they are aware of all the people that have been abducted? These are the things that are behind them making that initial admission, and is the reason why it would seem like it would be so easy. Yeah, why wouldn't they say, hey, we have that and we derive this from that? Because there are other things that have to come out after that that are probably mind-blowing and things you probably couldn't forgive them behind as well. It's a Pandora's box.
You talk about a Pandora's box and talk about abductees. Anybody who's ever done real serious research into abductees, whether it be from MRI scans of the brain, EEGs, or psychology, they're either shown to be a nut job or they die in mysterious Hillary Clinton-esque circumstances. So when people like Grush come forward and say, you know, hey, I was threatened, I don't have a hard time believing that at all. I don't. And that's what makes it so hard to push the needle on this, is shows like you guys do, you know, our lifeline, our bread and butter. If we didn't have shows like what we have here, we really wouldn't have anything. Because like you said, you know, they gave the toothpaste a pretty good squeeze to begin with, and nobody cared.
They're almost like the Ted Bundy of the government world, where it's like they look so nice and they're charming up front, but they hide dark secrets, right? And I think that's kind of what it is. It's you know, the things we've caught them doing, like the Tuskegee situation, the Project Stargate, just all the different things, that the submitting our troops to nuclear materials, and just all the nasty things that they've done. They have shown callousness in the moment that they drew the line last year, where it was about a year and a half ago, when they said, we don't care that we're supposed to put out a report by October 31st. We're not going to do it. And we're not even going to answer to you as to why. We don't care. We know we are mandated to do that, but we don't care.
And this goes back to the old neighborhood, Rob. What you gonna do?
Exactly. What you gonna do? They drew the line in the sand, and in that moment of callousness, that just lets you know that they showed their dark side in that moment. And it was like, you have to believe then the things that Grush says, and it's very likely that they are doing things behind the scenes, threatening people and causing people to not come forward, which is why in this upcoming hearing, they won't release the names. But you bet those people in control of this, they know who these people are, right? And so I don't think you could probably hide it from them. But
surprisingly enough, Marco Rubio has been involved in this for so many years. If you really knew how long Rubio had been really at the head of the table on this, it'd blow your mind. He's been involved in this for years. And it goes back. you've got the clip of Reagan right at the opening of the show, his famous, how quickly we'd all come together, that whole deal. Who was his vice president? Right? That man knew everything there was to know about the CIA because he ran it.
Who was it, Bush?
Yeah. Who was the director of the Central Intelligence Agency before he was vice president of the United States? Bush. Yep. If you don't think that he knew, he was the guy who told Carter, I'm not telling you anything about UFOs. That was Bush.
Yeah.
So their narrative has been established for a long time. Now, is it the whole technology thing? The weaponization of this stuff? Is it just the technology thing that they don't want to turn loose of? Or is it the question? Okay, the first question, you meet a UFO, right? You meet an alien. Where are you from? Why did you want to come here? And then the big question is, how did you get here? What was the technology that you used to travel here?
You want to chime in, Dave? Because I don't want to keep going back and forth and leave you out.
I'm enjoying this right now. I hope you don't mind. I'm just sitting back enjoying this. This is good conversation. Why are we here? What's going on right now? I mean, Terry, I just want to address something that you said about Roswell earlier on. Why haven't they told us about that? Because there is in as I've called it, you've heard me call it, Rob's heard me call it, Rob tends to agree with it, and I know you do too. I do believe there is this Pandora's box within the Pentagon that holds all of these secrets of technology, of alien life, of things that could be of biblical proportions regarding what is out in outer space. Okay, from every secret, from why we never went back to the moon to whether or not Bob Lazar worked at Area 51. There's all of these secrets that they don't want a part of that conversation. They are dodging that conversation because I really do believe they think that the United States of America will go into absolute chaos. That's what I believe.
Or at the very least, the people are going to turn on the governments. And I know it sounds far-fetched and a thing like that couldn't happen, but it's a reckoning time. And that's why I always say they still have time to make good on this. They still have an option to come forward before it comes out another way.
Do they though?
They're showing you they won't do it. They're showing you they're just not going to do it. Everything
we're
else
going to have to get a UFO on the White House lawn before they say, hey, guess what?
They're telling you in so many words, screw you. We're not going to tell you. And that can mean something somber, like Lou said. It goes to the somber comment. Now, what's that all about? I'm still wondering about that somber. I don't think Lou's ever cleared that up. That's why I would love to get him on SOR so we could ask him that, because I want to know, what is the somber thing, man?
This is what scares me about the whole 9 yards. September 10th, on the news. Hey, we just did an audit at the Pentagon and we can't track $21 trillion. September 11th, the office that held all that information at the Pentagon got a big hole blown in it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. It did happen. However you want to look at it, it did happen.
And watching the film, hey, they're going to drop building number 5 fell. It's standing right behind the guy. It fell 30 minutes later,
Oh, I hear you about that. As we got about 30 seconds to go here before we have to go to break. Terry Hall and Sweet Robbie G are our guests tonight. We're talking about ufology here. In regards to where this is going, I think the next half hour, we're going to get into the experiential side of everything. All right, because experiencers are starting to say, enough of this. Our stories are valid. They are information, but they are still being fought by the scientific community, the podcast community, and many others. Where do the experiencers stand next on Spaced Out Radio? We got Sweet Robbie G. We got Terry Hall and his beautiful mustache hanging on out tonight. This is a good show so far. Lots of entertaining conversation. Lots of knowledge to learn. and different perspective is always the way we're going to get ahead. Notice there's no yelling. There's no playing people down. None of that. We're talking like real people here on the This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
You know, Dave, one thing about SOR, and you get new people in it all the time. You have got some of the most intelligent people in the chat of anywhere. Oh, yeah. I've been reading some of this stuff as it's going by, and I tell you what, guys, you're bringing up some incredible stuff.
All right. If you have questions in hour 2 for the guys tonight, please put them in capital letters. I'm just going to step away for a break here. I'll be right back, Sweets. Run the board, man.
Sure. Yeah.
If you believe the Hillary stuff, which are the stories told by the own bodyguard who's on record Hillary would like to take flight to LA to attend rituals? Luna, I believe a lot of stuff. I'm a nut.
Yeah, you just got to keep your mind open. Never close your mind off.
When it comes to government and what we see on TV, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. A lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
They can take stuff, they can take footage and put a spin on it that would just blow your mind. And I've seen it. Matter of fact, if you pay attention, there's somebody that used to be on this show who's actually on a couple of shows right now. And if you keep an eye out in the background, you'll see Terry in the background, because I did do project management for a lot of these expeditions for people, and just completely walked away from it just to hold my integrity, because all they want is the sizzle shot. The sizzle reel, what's going to capture your attention and keep you watching the show for the next 5 minutes, not what we tried to put together, just straight up evidence with no spin.
Look, it's almost like the government is like somebody who's acting like it's their house, and then all of a sudden the real owners of the house show up.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it's like, But they don't want to lose that power, man. And hey, I understand, but things have to change. All kingdoms have fallen at some point in time, and unfortunately, the runs have been a few hundred years, sometimes a few thousand years, and it always goes back to someone else rising. And the whole question is, why is that the case?
Doesn't seem like, Rob, as technology progresses, civilizations live shorter and shorter periods? Like the Roman Empire, the Chinese were around for thousands of years. The Roman Empire was around for thousands of years, man. And they had, copper and bronze, and they cooked everything over the barbecue, which couldn't have been a bad thing, right? And now we got microwaves and stuff, and there's more people on Prozac now. I mean, antidepressants, and we wake up and take a pill to get us through our day, and we take another pill to go to bed at night, and nobody takes time to breathe,
Here's the thing, and well, I don't know if it may tie into what we talk about in the second hour, but the kids in Ariel school, I think it was Ariel school, said that the aliens told them the technology was bad. And that's been my whole thing. And I've thought about that, because initially when I heard that, I'm like, in what way? Do they mean technology is bad as far as weaponizing technology, or is technology bad in general because it takes us away from being natural nature? It takes us away from nature and being natural beings. So do they mean technology as a whole is bad, period? Like, we shouldn't be going the technological route at all. And if you look back at the past, and I think I brought this up before, with the whole past civilizations, the ones you just mentioned, all reached a certain technological height before they were knocked down. And then you have to ask yourself, why? Is it technology in general that is the bad thing, like these kids were told by these extraterrestrials?
If you look back in history, Rob, when civilizations start to decline and tumble is when they set social norms aside. Things that were normal for us that aren't normal anymore. We're setting social norms aside. If you look back at the Roman Empire, any big empire, when they get to the point of technology to where they can say, okay, what used to be real isn't real anymore, and I can prove it. That's when things fall apart. And that's where we're at right now. I can come out, I could put a video on the screen right now that clearly shows a tic-tac shaped thing coming out from behind one mountain and going to behind the other mountain. Middle of the day, bright as day, it was there. I saw it. I recorded it. But you're going to get 5 people in the chat and say that's AI, or that's not true, or that's not real.
Terry, hold on right there. We got 10 seconds. Thank you to Joe, Richard, T-Bone, Deb, Jennifer, and Richard again with the super chats. Really do appreciate the love and support, everybody. Here we go. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight for the SOR Space Travelers Club. We're going to make this one fun. Sweet Robbie G. Sweet Robbie G is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Rob, you not liking that password?
What's the password for?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Exactly. That's your answer.
Roger.
Exactly. All right, Sweet Robbie G. Terry Hall here. What's the purpose of ufology today? Especially with experiencers. Going back to the time before the To the Stars Academy, where they started coming out with this UAP garbage, and they started coming out with the fact that you could not prove that UFOs and aliens were tied together. I remember insiders telling me that you had to separate the two. But prior to that, it was all about the leads that experiencers gave, whether it was Betty and Barney Hill, whether it was Travis Walton, whether it was the Andreassens, Calvin Parker, and many, many more, giving leads to big stories of alien contact. We relied on those stories in order to try and figure out what was going on, that there was some sort of phenomena that was happening not only in the United States, but around the world. In Canada, 2 famous cases, Stefan Mikulik, the Falcon Lake incident, Karina Sables, the Black Triangle incident, Shag Harbor, another one. We look at these incidents and we're like, there is no evidence. There is no proof. We only have the tales of the people. But today, since the advent of social media has really taken over this topic, we seem to shun the stories right now. We seem to see the scientific and government community, they're interviewing fighter pilots. Like their stories are the only stories out there. We see the podcast community, the YouTube community, blasting anybody who has a story as fake, made up, looking for 15 minutes of fame. And yet there are people who are now silent, not wanting to tell their stories because they're afraid of the ridicule. And it's not ridicule from the public, which they kept it away from, but it's ridicule from their own community, Terry.
It goes, okay, let's go to technology, because you have people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. What does he say? Hey, you abductees, the next time you're on the alien spacecraft, steal something. Grab an ashtray. And if you can't do that, then I don't want to hear about it. It's because so many people who have had those kind of experiences, those kind of close encounters where it's up close and personal in your face. Hey, you're here and you can't, no matter what you say. I mean, it could, it's either, you're crazy, or I don't believe you, or where's the proof? 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 Well, so many people have experienced ayahuasca or DMT, and they all have very similar stories. Are you actually traveling when you do DMT and you go to see the machine elves or the blue lady or whoever it is? Right? I've read all the stories. And that goes back to technology again too, because now they're saying that a lot of these abductees, it's just the DMT that your body naturally makes, and you just imagined it. Without that ashtray, the story's not real. And it goes to technology. It's back to technology, because you've got so many people who say, we've heard the stories over and over and over again. Nobody has ever said, here's the ashtray. Nobody's ever sat it on a table and said, here's the ashtray. And so it's gotten to the point of, and because of podcasts and things, is it the boy who cried wolf? Or is it the guy who said, the dike's leaking and the dike wasn't leaking, but he had a picture of another dike that was leaking and he said it was that dike that was leaking? We see that all the time. I know a guy, we'll just call him R, who is a very famous Bigfoot researcher, had a show on a particular network, on a particular network. One day his crew came out, and the crew had tied a red ribbon in a tree. And they said, Russ, we need some shots. Just point up there at that. And Mr. R did. And the next thing you know, when the show came out, when he pointed, he was pointing at hair that was in a tree, not a ribbon. That kind of stuff happens all the time. So even if you got photographic proof of it, it doesn't necessarily mean that's what it was. So if you've just got the story, then you've just got the story. Now, Betty Hill, that's completely different. Betty Hill drew things out, and much later on, we found out that what Betty Hill drew was an actual galaxy that we've observed now. So that falls back on evidence, real evidence. She couldn't have known about the Zeta Reticuli, because we didn't know about it when she got abducted. We had no idea. She drew that out, and we found it later. What kind of evidence are people presenting now that we can do that with? And so that just leaves it back to, it's just a story. So we're going to believe the pilot rather than John Doe. And so we can keep the threat narrative going. If we can keep the threat narrative going, then there's money behind it. If we can get our 15 minutes of fame, there's money behind it. How many millions of dollars has Lou Elizondo made since he came public in 2017? How many copies of that book did he just sell? Now, is he doing this out of goodness of his heart, or did he find out once he jumped into this, or did he know once he jumped into this with people like Tom DeLonge and Hal Puthoff and the rest of those guys that he was going to make money and throw a real wrench into this and make it act like, hey, we're going to we're going to get some of the tube out of the toothpaste when it was all just a hoax to begin with. That's where we're at in this now. Nobody knows what to believe anymore.
Rob, let's get your opinion.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'll say I agree there, and here's how I look at it. The reason why I think experiencers have been taken out of the frame is because I think what happened back in the day when Betty and Barney Hill came out, when you had all those classic old UFO encounters, a lot of the ones that we know, I think that you're looking at a time in early ufology where the government themselves were still trying to gather data and didn't know exactly what was going on. So they leaned on the experiencers to gather a lot of data at once, which they did. And then they kind of took it on themselves after that. And they figured that because they have advanced technologically, that they have the tools to uncover this, even though I know they know what's going on. But at this point, they have shunned the experiencers because the experiencers hold the keys to everything. There's been every aspect of this. We, as far as us as experiencers here in ufology, we have experienced every aspect of anything that could go on in relation to this, except for the only things we don't have or we don't have control of. We don't have the spacecraft as humanity, as in ufology, we don't have that, or we don't have bodies. Those are the two things that they have that we don't. And they know if they include the experiencers in the story, then the lid is blown off. The story lies within us. It's already here. We have all the answers. If we all got together, all experiencers got together in one place, you would see everyone has a little part of the phenomena. And if you told that whole story, then that is disclosure. That is exactly what that is. So they rather keep us separated from that, from the current conversation, because, you know, if we were doing what we're doing here right now on News Nation or on some global platform, it would probably blow over and blow up into full-blown disclosure at that point, because the world would be so, you know, enthralled with what it is that the experiencers are saying. So they have to keep us out of the conversation, but the joke's on them. The joke's on them because the scientists that they're leaning on to gather this data. And first, before I say this, science alone won't solve it. It never will. So if they just leave it to science, and I think they know that, and so that's the route they're going. But the joke's on them because they're beginning to find out more and more that a lot of these people that they thought were just going to conduct pure science are turning out to be experiencers themselves. There are a lot of people who weren't saying anything before, who were scientists using the scientific method, who they leaned on for information, who are now coming out and telling stories about orbs and all these different encounters that they had. There was a woman on just with Ross Coulthard yesterday or today from the UAP task force. She was in the UAP task force, and she's talking about having visions and all these sorts of things. So what they're going to find out is that you can't separate the experiences from this, because a majority of people are experiencers. They just haven't said it yet. But more and more, they're finding out that those people that they thought were just going to conduct pure science are coming out now and saying they too have had experiences. So there's nowhere to run.
But even the scientific community is divided in this type of thought process. In one aspect, you have somebody like Gary Nolan, who is saying, without the experiencers, we would have no leads. Everything needs a starting point. And for Nolan and his team, they realize that experiencers are a great starting point to the phenomena and the connection. But on the flip side, you have Rich Hoffman, who said on this show, he wants the UFO community and experiencers to get the hell out of the way, to let the scientists and the military do their job to figure out this phenomena. And that all we're doing is creating nonsense.
Yeah, but when they do, look, one of your best friends, Bob, Science Bob, look what they did to him. And Rob, you say somebody needs to lay it all out on the line. I think David Grush was their crash test dummy, and look what they did to him.
And here's what I say. When I'm talking about scientists, I'm not talking about a Gary Nolan, because technically Gary Nolan is doing science in that realm over there. However, he's not from within the government. I'm talking about people like within the programs, within the UFO programs. The scientists they have within those programs are now coming out and saying that they were also experiencers. Gary Nolan has always been more from our side than the government side. So I'm specifically talking about scientists that are within those government programs, the ATIPs, the OSAPs, the UAP task force, the government entities that are now coming out. We're supposed to be conducting pure science. We're going to leave it up to these group of people to figure this thing out. We put together this group, and now those people are coming out saying, hey, I've experienced some stuff too.
Well, the thing is when you boil it down to the base of those groups, Rob, it goes back to the aviary days, right? The people who have been in possession of this knowledge are now the people that are running these kind of groups. We haven't gotten any information. I mean, even when they did try to push the information, like when Greer did his original thing, at the press conference that he did, right? That first one that he did. That pushed the needle forward. But once again, they all turned into crash test dummies. And it seems like the people who are running this push it forward and then turn you into a crash test dummy, and push it forward and turn you into a crash test dummy. It's never let's move the ball down the field and leave it down the field. Let's move the ball down the field 18 yards and bring it back 10.
Yeah.
And that's where the difficulty comes in with this stuff.
But I'm going to use a sports analogy here.
Don't make it hockey, though.
It's going to be, well, I'll choose any sport. I'm going to use hockey because I'm familiar with it, okay? But let's even use baseball. Just for you, Rob, we'll use baseball. Are you cool with that?
That sounds good.
Okay. So in baseball, it is less than 0.6% of all players in the United States will get one game in the major leagues. 0.06%. 0.6? Yeah. 0.6, pardon me, not 0.06. 0.6%. And yet there are people out there who have a dream of playing baseball. And they may go to play fastball. They may go to play slow pitch. But they still love going to the plate and playing. Imagine if Major League Baseball said, you're not allowed to play baseball. All you're doing is creating stupid uniforms, stupid names, okay, like the master batters, okay? And trust me, there are teams out there called that. I used to play against one. All you're doing is making a mockery of the game, and we don't like it. Get out of the way. Imagine if Major League Baseball did that. There'd be an uproar. What, I can't go to the ballpark and throw a ball around and hit a ball? I can't play, town league or state league baseball at a senior men's league? I can't do that? I can't play slow pitch with my buddies? Or maybe a mixed slow pitch team with my spouse?
Yeah.
That's what's happening in the UFO world. Is they're telling the people who are wanting to be involved in this, because some of them have no choice, to get out of the way. You're not allowed here. That's what's happening. If it was in sports or if it was in anything else, there'd be uproar.
So here's a question for you guys then. In the 80 years, 90, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, 90 years, this has been going on. With all the stories, all the film, we've only got to prove that one, with everything that we've got, we've only got to prove that one of them, is the absolute, no uncontested empirical evidence. It's here, they're here. What is that going to take? What is it going to take for us to say, okay, that one is absolute proof that we've got something else here? What is it going to take?
I would point to the one I always go to, my go-to experience, and they should be talking about this in these hearings, the Ariel School sighting and the Westall sighting. Those two groups of individuals should be in DC at these hearings talking to Congress about their face-to-face encounters with extraterrestrials that a lot of other people witnessed in every element of their story. And then the fact that it was recorded on film, John Mack and others who were involved with that, it's recorded and frozen in time, the feeling and the mood that they had, and the synchronicity that they had as far as when he told them to draw the craft and show me what they looked like, and they all drew the same thing. That should be in front of Congress right there. But they don't want to let the experiencers in to do that. And that's the whole thing. That's the big problem. You can bring all the scientists in the world to sit up there in front of Congress, and they're not going, unless they are experiencers themselves and can speak to an experience that they've had themselves, which that usually doesn't happen in these hearings. Then those hearings aren't going to move the needle at all. It's always going to come back that they're just telling a story secondhand. They heard this person did this. Bring the Ariel kids up there. Bring them up there. Bring the Westall. They're still alive. Bring them up there. We're talking about 200. I think Ariel, one of them was out of the two. One school, it was like 60 people that witnessed. The other incident was like 200 people who witnessed the incident in broad daylight. And you have to be concerned about aliens landing at a school with children. There should be a concern there. So that should be talked about in front of Congress. And I think that would be the one, if they did, it would probably catch the heartstrings of everyone in Congress and get everyone's attention to make them do something.
Terry, I got a question for you here, okay? Because you believe my stories. You and I have a friendship. Let's just be open in front of you. You're like a brother to me. I think we can say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A much better looking older brother. I got you on age, but you got me on looks and mustache quality. Look at everything that has happened to me. The Bigfoot sightings, the paranormal adventures, the intuition, the out-of-body experiences, the UFOs, okay, the alien contact. And yet look how much criticism I take from the UFO community and people coming into our chat rooms calling me that I'm doing it for 15 minutes of fame. I'm doing it for clicks. I'm doing it for subscribers and followers and grifting.
Well, dude, you've got a show on YouTube. And we've got you on the radio. So on one hand, yeah, that's what you're doing. Duh. I mean, let's just be real about it. We want everybody to like and share this. We want people to tell other people about it so they have a place to come to. They have a community of people that they can talk to about their experiences. That's what's so important here. But like you said, on the other hand, if you do come forward, you're going to get grief. And that's just, why? I mean, dude, if you open up the dictionary and look up tinfoil hat, it's in the dictionary.
The point that I'm getting at as we go to break here at the bottom of the hour is that the experiencer, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have my experiences. I had a nice, happily boring life. You and I wouldn't have met. Sweet Robbie G and I wouldn't have met.
Yep.
We wouldn't have this great community, these radio stations and everything. Gentlemen, hold on right there. We're going to go to break. Terry Hall, Sweet Robbie G, till the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
When it comes to proof, Rob, and you know this story, you were actually part of it. Sitting in the desert, cameras are running, we got things recording, we're doing a research, we're out on a trip. I get a call from Dave. He's in Canada. We're 1,200 miles away from Dave, right? He says, what direction you facing? I tell him I'm sitting in the back of the RV, right? Trying to get this monitor and these other things to work. So blah, blah, blah. He said, go outside and look north. Go outside and take one of my Psionics cameras outside. So, go. He says, just train your camera north. So I trained my camera north. Intuition. Dave was talking about his intuition. He called it out. We recorded anomalous stuff in the sky that evening. That I was sitting in the back because we built a research vehicle. I was sitting in the back working on some technical stuff. Dave calls me up, and Luna was talking about the occult earlier. That entire day, things were happening. Strange things were happening at 11 minutes past the top of the hour all day long. Like you'd pick up a set of binoculars and you'd go outside, and as soon as you start trying to look at something, the battery would just go bah. Take it back in, set it down on the counter, go pick it up 10 minutes later, turn it back on, the battery's full. Right? Well, Dave called me that night at 11 p.m. told me where to go out, told me to go outside, where to look, and what I would see when I went out there. Now, keep in mind, we have the telephone transcripts from that conversation. We also have it all on film. It was all being recorded while it was happening.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is about that 11. I don't know what it is. There's something.
No, it wasn't that. It was, you're talking about how many things tie into this and what it would take for actual proof. Well, there's one side of it that certain people who have had these type of experiences are tuned into this stuff, and they don't have to be on location to sense it being there. Yeah. Once they have that connection with a person, like Dave and I have a very deep connection with one another, he sensed what was going on in the area that I was in and called it out from over 1,200 miles away.
I've heard of that before. I've heard people say that. I can't speak to it, but I've heard people definitely say that before.
I'm a weirdo.
That wasn't a trip that we took Mateo on. That was one of our very first trips that we took to the Uinta Basin, because I raised my family in Utah and I'm very familiar with that area. And we were sitting just outside of Blind Frog Ranch. Where Blind Frog Ranch starts, we were sitting just on the other side of the creek from it, which is put us basically right between Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch is where we were. We were kind of right in the middle of the two. And that evening, Dave said, go outside, look north. We did. It was there. Got it all on film. Well, there's proof. Betty and Barney Hill. Betty Hill drew the... was it Zeta Reticuli that she drew, right?
I think so.
We didn't know about that until I think it was 15 years later. You go back to Jack Parsons from Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He was supposed to be opening gates and talking with entities. Like they say demons, you can say demons, but it's an entity. You can label it whatever you want, but he was actually supposed to be able to, and it wasn't just him that was saying this. It was the entire group of people that was hanging around with him. Said that he had amazing abilities to do things like that. So, man, this stuff's just hard to put a finger on.
Remote viewing. I mean, we know that's a thing. When the government did it, practiced it with humans. There's a lot of people that do remote viewing.
Stanford University has a program for remote viewers that you can get off of the internet. Stanford does.
We know there's definitely human abilities that show up sometimes and are not unlocked for everybody, but they're there, and they just have to be unlocked. And
oh man, some of the stories I got told on Indian on First Nations reservations. I've been to a lot of them, and I've talked with a lot of elders from the Utes and Navajos, and man, some of those stories, dude, they still make my skin. Ooh, they still make my hair stand up, man, and give me the goosebumps and stuff.
Gentlemen, hold on right there because we're going to come back in about 22 seconds. Thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Joe ×2, Deborah Rooney ×2, Richard ×2, and Jennifer. Thank you for the great super chats, everybody. Really helps out what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. And here we go in about 4 seconds. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is kicking off right now. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. We've got Terry Hall and Sweet Robbie G here, enjoying the night, talking all things UFO. Reminder to all of you that if you have missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can download us for free on any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Sweet Robbie G from After Hours and Terry Hall, researcher, here on the show. What the hell's going on with UFOlogy? That's the big one tonight. As we continue on, gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You know, when it comes to this subject, the thing is, once you're an experiencer, it's life-changing. It changes you as a person, and it can really have either positive or negative effects in your life, depending on who you have around you, right? I am fortunate enough to have people around me who maybe they haven't been an experiencer, but they understand that I'm a smart enough person to where if it affects me this much, then they trust me and believe me enough to think, hey, we saw what he saw, right? Not all of us are blessed with that like I am. I consider myself very fortunate. Met some amazing people in this field of study. But it comes down to what I think it comes down to where we're at right now is we're striving to get the answers that we're not getting. The answers that we are getting, every time we think we're making a step, they're taking it away from us.
What answer do you want, Terry?
What it's not an answer that I want, Dave. It's confirmation. We've already got the answers. We just need confirmation for the answers. We've confirmed this stuff within our group, within our own little tribe, within our UFO tribe. We've already got confirmation. We've already got the answers that we're looking for. There's something here. The answers I would like, Dave, is the same ones probably everybody does. Why are they here? Where are they from? And how did they get here? Simple, right? And when it goes down to that, then what breaks it down, another thing that could be a great big hiccup in the whole thing is religion. If we found out that we're star children and that we were seeded from, we're just seeds, panspermia kind of thing, well, where does that leave God? Where does the great creator come in and all that? If we're panspermia and we just, a couple of fortunate things, we had water and we had proteins and we had this and we had that, we were an amoeba, and then the next thing you know, we're us. If that just happens at random, then where does that leave religion? And that's another great big hiccup in this whole field of study. It's not just in what the government's telling us, is what is being hidden behind closed doors in these great, big, huge money machines. What would happen with the oil industry if we found out that 0 point energy was a real thing? And that all we needed was this little device we could sit on our kitchen table to run everything. What if you wouldn't have to charge your Tesla? You wouldn't have to bring it home and plug it in. What if it just charged while you were driving? 0 point energy. Where would that leave the oil industry? What happened with hemp and cannabis back in the 20s? How they made it illegal because the timber barons and the people that made newspapers and paper, once industrial hemp was brought in and the decoordinator, well, then that was going to ruin the timber, oil, and paper industry. Well, then it got made illegal. We're looking at the same thing over and over and over again. It's the money machines, religion, oil, weaponry, war, just the industry of war, the industrial complex. It's all a hindrance to what we already know is here. The answers that I want is, why are they here? Where did they come from? What do they want with us? And why are we so goddamn interesting that they keep coming back here?
Rob, what answer do you want?
Just exactly what Terry said. I mean, why are they here? What's the purpose? I want to know what Lou Elizondo means by somber. I want to jump down that rabbit hole and find out what that means, because when I've thought about it offline, I try to wrap my mind around what could be somber. In is it that the alien threat is across as somber, or is it that we figure out one day that human beings or humanity itself is like a parasitic species? And I just thought about that because of how humanity historically has essentially done a lot to harm the planet and to go against nature. And it's like, are we actually like a parasitic species? And is that the somber thing? Will we find out that and I brought this up one time, like if cancer cells were conscious, would they realize that they were the bad guys? You know what I mean? And then they probably think that they were just regular guys, right? And then what happens when you find out that you're the parasite? The parasite.
There was a Doctor Who episode, Rob. I'm glad you said that. There was a Doctor Who episode, and it was just like you said. It wasn't cancer cells, but these were just entities living on the edge of the known universe, and the only thing they had to go off was us, right? So when Doctor Who met these things, they were like warlike and just horrendous monster type things. And he said, "What made you this way?" And he said, "You did. Humanity made me this way, because we've studied what you guys have done, and all you've done is tried to kill each other. So that's why we are the way that we are."
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. And it would be a sad state of affairs, and it would be somber. It would be a somber thing to find that out, that there is no fixing, right? That we just are built to war, that we are built to destroy planets, that we are parasitic in nature, and that would be a sad state of affairs. So I want to know why they would, and it would, if that were the case, it would make sense why this is such a top secret that just can't come out, and kind of goes into the somber thing. That's the answer I would want. And I'm just thinking this thing through, man, trying to see what makes sense.
Dude, I had a theory a long time ago. And we know that our DNA has been messed with, and we also found out how much information your DNA can actually store, right? And that some of our DNA has been spliced and manipulated, and this, that, and the other. And I always thought, well, maybe the reason that they keep coming back here is because somewhere in our distant past, they took away whatever gifts we had at that point in time, telekinesis, that kind of stuff, right? Things really can just manipulate matter. And if we wanted to take out a star, we could take out a star, right? And so they keep coming back and monitoring us to make sure that we haven't been able to figure out how to flip that switch back on and get our gifts back.
Yeah, we're special. I mean, we're special, but are we being visited or are we being contained? Ask that question. Are they containing us to this planet and saying you guys can't leave because we don't want this to spread? And it makes sense because we, in this current state, we're warlike and we're not making the best decisions. And this definitely wouldn't be something, this attitude that we have or the way that we act in society is not going to be, I'm sure, accepted out there in the cosmos. So are they containing us and keep making sure we stay on planet and not go out there? Or are they here to enlighten us? Or are they doing a little bit of both? Is there a way to heal us and help us get out of those ways and become something that would be accepted out there? Maybe that's the somber thing. I just been thinking about that. There's some truth to that and some logic to that as well. So I don't know.
Well, Dave, I know that you've had experiences that, I mean, up close and personal ones, but you've never had the opportunity to ask the questions that you want answered. What are the questions that Dave Scott would want answers for?
I want to know why me. I mean, I was 40 years old when my experiences started that I know of. Okay. I want to know why me. I lived a nice, happily boring life. Right. And I know it led me to the point of starting this show, getting back into radio and starting this show. And I'm good with that. It opened my eyes to the phenomena in the world that is out there. I'm not somebody who needs to know if, what is Bigfoot or what is a ghost or where do these aliens come from? I just want to know why I was chosen. That's all I want to know. I already know the government is a bunch of bullcrap and what they are hiding. I already know that everything that I've wanted to see exists because I've seen it. You have to take my word for it. And if you don't, that's a choice for everybody else. Okay. But I want to be able to allow a place for people to share their stories. We're not going to get disclosure. I am 100% convinced of that. What I want is I want people to feel comfortable in sharing the stories rather than being laughed at, rather than being ridiculed. I remember a young lady in my town tried to say, "Aren't you that Bigfoot guy?" I said, "Yes, I am." She goes, "People talk about you." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." I said, "But let me tell you something about those people who talk about me. I know their stories. And mostly all of them have had one. So the fact that people in my town think I'm a weirdo, I'm cool with that. I hope it doesn't affect my son going into high school. I really don't. But it is what it is. I'm unique, I'm quirky, and that's all that matters. I like me."
We like you too, Dave.
I've had just kind of the opposite from that, though, Dave. When people find out about what what we do on the side, it's gone from ridicule to interest. At one point in time, no doubt about it, there was ridicule there. You're a nut, tinfoil hat, whatever. And it's gone from that to real interest here lately. And well, within the last several years, actually. And it just seems to me like there's more and more and more people who are having these kind of experiences. And that's what drew me to believe to begin with why they were letting the toothpaste out of the tube, was because the preponderance of evidence has gotten to be so much that it's hard to defute anymore, right? we've got so much evidence, it's ridiculous. I mean, the kind of evidence we have would win any case in any court of law in any country on planet Earth. But these few people who throw dispersions, or if you want to call them debunkers, seem to have more power than all of our evidence together. And I just can't figure out why.
Then why do we try so hard to debunk them?
The reason to, like, okay, let's take it back to Lou Elizondo, right? A lot of people talk smack about him. A lot of people don't talk smack about him. A lot of people believe him. A lot of people don't. But the reason we ask so many questions is because we want it to be true. We want that one solid thing that we can hitch our horse to.
I'll take that one further. People are also, Terry, we are explorers. We explore the parks, we explore the forests, we explore the rivers, the lakes. We stare up at the sky wondering what's out there. We wonder about what's around that corner. We wonder what it's like to go to a different continent, to see everything from the concrete, amazing jungles of downtown Tokyo to the jungles of Africa and Brazil. We are explorers. We're not meant to be settled into a 9-to-5 job just to be able to put a roof over our head. We're meant to get out there and explore. So I understand with what you're saying about that.
Tell you what, Hillbilly Herb, that guy is a rogue scholar. He's been making some good points all night. If the bunkers are government backed, they can afford to be louder.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very astute observation.
Let's talk about the debunkers for a second. Are the majority of debunkers out there because they're trying to break the code of ufology? Or are they out there because they know that people are out there pulling the wool over people's eyes?
Could be that, or it could be that we've just gotten to a point in society now. Let's say you're in a room with 5 people, right? You come up with this, what you think is a great idea. And you say, I'm going to make a business out of this. Well, 4 of those people are going to be patting you on the back going, yeah, buddy, I think it's going to work. You got that one guy that's going to say, it'll never work. There's got to be the one uncool person in the room. But that one uncool person puts doubts in the other 5 people that are in the room. That's all it takes, is just the one. And as long as they can keep this charade up, all it takes is just the one. But then on the other hand, on our side, all it takes is just the one thing that we can say here. And so when it comes to people like Lou Elizondo, you've got the uncool person that's in the room that's going to put as many doubts in your mind over him as he can. David Grush, Lou Elizondo. I mean, George Scott was a long time ago. This guy came out with a lot of good stories, and it was basically all based in truth. A lot of it was proven, and the guy died penniless, a penniless pauper, and they all said he was a nut. Later on in life, his stories were proven to be true. This didn't have anything to do with UFOs. This was a completely different research on a totally different topic. But still, thing is, it takes that one guy just to say that it's not true. And that's, we land right where we're at. So, no matter what we've got here, guys, where we're at in the UFO place is we have to leave our trust in one another, because that's all we've got right now. We can't rely on Uncle Sam or Uncle Trudeau to give us the answers that we want. We've just got each other, and that's where we've got to stay.
How about you, Robbie G?
Yeah, we just got to wake up. Debunkers, I don't think have debunkers, cover a lot of different type of motivations. They all come from different places and have different reasons for debunking. Some do it out of spite, some do it to protect a secret, some do it because they don't want to face what reality is because they're safe in their bubble. There's different reasons why people debunk. So, looking at that first. Second of all, we just have to, if you look at it, like you said, baseball is a game. You put on uniforms and you play a role. That's what politics are. That's what most of this conversation is. Most of this gossip and what's going on is happening within a game of Monopoly. And if you put the board up, close the box, and open your eyes up to what reality really is, then I think that's when you begin, and you're open-minded, that's when you begin to get what's really going on, and you can kind of, further yourself or further the conversation on behalf of humanity and figure out what's really going on.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I really do. I mean, in reality, though, with 3.5 minutes to go here, this is a fun topic to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing about it is have a platform to where we can, if we fall into something where we need to agree to disagree, then we can and remain friends. And that's why having this kind of community is so important. Being able to openly discuss this kind of stuff without fear of ridicule or being shamed or shunned. That's why our community is so important.
How about you, Rob? How much fun do you have it?
I love unraveling the onion, man. I love peeling the layers back. That's why I sit down and have these conversations, is to do exactly that. Not just to talk, but to get to the truth of the matter and really find out why it is we're in this spot and what do we do next. That's my main motivation, and that's why I do this and why I love to do it.
I do it because I love hearing people's stories. I remember driving home at night from Vancouver, listening to Art Bell late at night, and that raspy cigarette smoking voice of his that was just absolutely perfect. You know what I'm saying? I remember listening to that, and I remember saying, if I ever got that opportunity to do that, that would be my dream job, either hosting an overnight sports talk show or talking about UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, like that. And yet here we are. So I guess I fulfilled one of the dreams. I love being able to hear people talk about their stories. I absolutely love an opportunity to talk to people and just hear them out and learn and listen to how this phenomena has affected them. Because everyone has a story. It's whether or not we have the ability to tell the story. And there are a lot of people out there right now who don't want to tell the story. They want to be, even though they haven't done anything scientific since high school, they want to do those high school scientific fact. They want to be that show that produces all that scientific fact. Not that I have a burden against science. Science is very important. But the people who are hiding behind it with opinion is where it's dangerous. But I love doing this. I love sharing the stories with the people. And that's the way I'm going to continue to do it, because it's a nice way.
Well, let's use science to the benefit tonight, Dave. You're on the radio. You're on the radio. This is going out into the others. So why don't you give a big invite to anybody who's in a UFO right now traveling this way to come to SOR, sit down and have a conversation with Dave Scott.
I love it. I love it. Sweet Robbie G, thank you, my man, for coming on in. Your chin hair looks fantastic. Terry Hall and the legendary handlebar mustache, thank you, my friend. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller. Then Robin Haynes with the Crypted Report. It's Dave 101 night and the weird news of the week, all in hour 3 next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Well, Dave, as every time, it's been a pleasure. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are just dope. You guys are dope. I love my SOR family. I do. And thanks once again for putting up with me and my mustache. Love you, Rob. Love you, Dave.
Love you back, Terry Hall, the GOAT. Appreciate you, man. Dave, awesome as always.
Thanks, buddy.
And I will see you guys on Saturday.
Horns
Yes.
up.
Horns up,
Ciao
guys.
for now.
Good voice.
Later.
There they go. Off into the sunset. Sweet Robbie G with one little last cute peek. And there we go. I'll be right back. right, old Davey's back. There's Robin Haynes, looking gorgeous as ever. Excuse me. All right. Thank you tonight to Tets, Deborah Rooney with a hat trick, T-Bone ×2, Joe ×2, Richard ×2, and Jennifer for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in and loving this support. Greatly appreciate that. Put my alien back. Just like that. Put him back there. Cuddling on in. Here we go, everybody. Here we go at the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Robin Haynes at the Crypted Report right around the corner. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Sweet Robbie G. Sweet Robbie G is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
So it's the summer of 2013. I'm 21, and I just finished my junior year in college. The second week of August, a group of my friends and I go on an 8-day camping trip. It's 7 of us in total, 4 guys and 3 girls. We're camping in a semi-remote campground in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It was a large campground, but very few other campers were there. There were a few filled sites near the front of the campground, but we purposefully requested a campground in the back corner. We were completely by ourselves. During the trip, we planned a whitewater rafting trip for one of the days. We were hiking Mount Washington towards the end of the trip and thought maybe we'd do another 1 to 2 other small hikes, with 1 to 2 days of just chilling by the lake at the campground. We also planned on doing plenty of drinking during the evenings. The first couple of days of the trip are fantastic. Whitewater rafting was a blast. Everything's going great. So it's the evening of our third day. We have a roaring fire going. We're all just hanging out at the campsite, drinking, and just messing around. It's around 9:30 when a disheveled-looking man walks past our site. His clothes are kind of torn or worn out, messy and tangled hair, etc. He looks to be maybe in his mid-40s. This isn't weird, though. We all just think it's another camper doing a late evening stroll around the campground. About an hour and a half later, we see this same man walk past our site in the same direction. This time he's walking slower, almost with a bit of a limp. We're all pretty drunk at this point. I think one of us might have yelled something out to him, but he just kind of ignores us and keeps on walking. Mildly strange, but still is probably just someone who wanted to take a long walk. We wrapped up the night at around 1:30 or 2, I believe. The fire is dying down and we head back to our tents. I usually love sleeping while camping. I usually find it extremely peaceful, but for some reason, I was having trouble sleeping this night. I get up to go take a pee in the woods. When I do, I see a faint light, maybe about 50 to 75 yards ahead of me in the woods, if I remember correctly. It looks like a dim flashlight or something similar. I decided, for whatever reason, I want to go investigate. I go back to the tent. One of my other buddies is still awake, so I tell him about it. We get up to investigate. When we do, the light is no longer on. Feeling just a little bit unnerved, I shine my flashlight around the woods a bit, but don't see anything, so I decide maybe my eyes were just playing tricks on me before I go and head back to bed. Sometime later that night, I wake up to a terrifying scream. It was Sarah, one of the girls we were camping with. I jumped out of my tent as quickly as possible and nearly run into her as she's running back into our site. She's still screaming. She screamed that there is a man standing in the middle of the woods. Now, our whole party is awake and freaking the heck out. I try to calm Sarah down enough to get her to explain what actually happened. She says she went to go pee in the woods and saw the man from earlier just standing about 15 feet away from her, not moving, being like a statue. We all start freaking out, yelling and screaming and making a giant commotion. I'm internally freaking out and trying to calm down though. I'm just trying to be the voice of reason. If I can get everyone to calm down enough, we can maybe do something. We obviously decide to get the heck out of there. We frantically take down our tents, basically just ripping the poles down and throwing everything into the back of our cars. Then we sped out of there. It's around 4 a.m. We're in 2 separate cars and decide just to drive away from the campsite and try to clear our heads. Eventually, at around 5:30, we find a small diner that's open and decide to head in for some breakfast. We all have different theories about what the heck just happened. Some of us think we just ran into a homeless guy who was camping out in the woods and was surprised by us. Some of the girls think maybe he was purposely stalking us. Either way, obviously none of us are comfortable staying at that campground again. I head back to the front desk of the campground with 2 of the other guys. We explain what happened, and the guys at the front desk actually seemed to believe us, but said there were definitely no other campers currently that fit the description of that guy. They were insanely nice about it though, and actually refunded most of the remainder of our stay, which astonished me. As a group, we decided to say F it, and we weren't letting one freaky guy ruin our trip. We found another campground, and it ended up being fine. For the most part. At least, we thought it was. Fast forward 2 days. We're hiking Mount Washington. We get up really early and get to the mountain at around 7:30 a.m. to start hiking up. We're a little over halfway up the mountain when we see the very same guy hiking down. Though this time he looks much better. His hair isn't crazy. His hiking clothes are relatively clean. We were all just frozen. A few of us let out a surprised scream. He just strolls past us with a massive grin. Luckily, there are enough hikers nearby that nothing could really happen. We decide to continue hiking up anyways since he is headed in the opposite direction and hope we never encounter him again. We did finish the hike and luckily we didn't see him again. After that, we did decide to cut a trip a little short because, honestly, looking back on it, we've all come to the conclusion that we were likely being stalked in some way. If it was just some homeless guy in the woods near the campground, what the heck was he doing hiking down Mount Washington a couple of days later? It was a pretty unnerving and bizarre experience for sure. I'd love to hear anybody's thoughts or comments down below.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy, spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube. Click on his channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. Let's get to Robin Haynes of the Crypted Report. All right, Robin Haynes, nice to have you back, my beautiful friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Good to be here.
It is good to have you here, and especially it's been a rough couple of weeks, without pop, without internet, but here you are.
I know. Finally, I was worried because it kept going on and off. Today they've been working on it still, but so far so good.
Let's get right to it here. a lot of people are in the forest now. They're out hunting, they're out camping, trying to get out before it gets too cold and too, harsh of the winter conditions coming out, especially up here in Canada and the northern reaches of the United States. When we take a look at these areas, how do we know if we're in a safe area or an area where we shouldn't be?
Well, first of all, you're going to look for structures. Are you going to see these big tall X's, that are saying stay out? And then if they have poles on either side, it's a territorial marker on top of staying out. So you're going to listen to that, because it's not just for other Sasquatch, it's for you as well. The other thing is, if there's a lot of prey there that, that they can get, if there's a lot of deer, elk, whatever, the food sources, they are going to be around. So know that they're going to be there. That doesn't mean you can't. It just means you need to be on your toes. And I tell this to everybody every hunting season. If you get a deer or whatever it is that you're hunting, and you follow the trail to go get it, and all of a sudden it disappears, it is not worth you getting hurt to try to pick a fight with a Sasquatch over who's going to get that deer kill. Okay, let it go, because in the end they're going to get it anyway. They do follow the hunters, not necessarily to hurt the hunters. They don't. And I've not heard of a lot of hunters that have had an altercation with them. They just simply want the food. They have families too. So just kind of FYI, be aware that they are out there when you're hunting. They know where you hunt at. So even if that's not their normal area for them to hunt in, they will go to those areas just because they know the hunters are there. They will be very watchful of you. There are several hunters that have been up in a tree stand and literally seen them walk under the tree stand. They're not out there to get the hunters. They're out there to get what the hunters can get. I mean, they want it as a food source. Generally, back away, let them have it, and just leave them alone, and you don't have any problems. But, when you go into these areas and you're seeing these large X's around, know that that is for them. It's just like if you go into an area that has a posted sign that says no trespassing. You've got to respect it, or there's problems. And it's the same way with them. If you're not noticing that, and you do notice a lot of structures, maybe go to the outside area of that. You don't need to be inside the structured area. And people get upset and they're like, well, we were here first. Well, not really, because you're in their home too. So it's a mutual respect. They're going to be thinking that that's their hunting territory. You don't need to mess with that, and they don't need to mess with yours, but they will look for the local hunters, because if there's hunters, then normally the hunters hunt and get a food source for them. And they do not have a problem with taking it. They really don't. They don't see it as anything is wrong. They work on the barter system. They may take your food, but then, they may leave you rocks. You just don't know. But they don't have a problem taking it. It's not worth anybody getting hurt over. It really isn't. So just be careful when you're out hunting. Pay attention to things going on. Most hunters are very, very aware of noises that they hear. If you hear things that are not normal, or if all of a sudden everything goes completely silent, that there's something else out there beside you. Pulling up a firearm and you're going to shoot it is not your best defense. It really isn't, because if there's one out there, everything is done through the collective consciousness and through mind speak. It takes literally a second for more to be there. So it's just not a war you want to wage. And they seldom will they ever really try to hurt the hunters. Not that it hasn't happened, but it's not as often as you would think. They simply want what you've caught. That's it.
You mentioned that they're following hunters. I've heard plenty of stories from hunters being trapped in trees because they're up at a deer stand, and all of a sudden these creatures are around, chasing the deer, chasing the wild hogs.
Yeah, they know that if you're out there hunting, whether you're on the ground or in a deer stand, you're there for a reason. And you're there for the same reason they are. And you get one of two scenarios. Either they are not happy that you're in what they would consider their hunting area, or they've gone looking for you and are following you around to see what you can find, because it just makes their job easier. The end result is not that they want to hurt you. I mean, I've had people tell me that they've literally had them scream bloody murder at them, and it's an intimidation. Nothing has been done to them other than the yelling and trying to show that, they're bigger and badder than we are, which they are. And they do it because they want what we've hunted. They have families to feed too. They don't have a grocery store. They want the game that our hunters take down. It's that simple. And if they can keep them up in the tree stand, like let's say you're up in the tree stand and you've nailed a deer or whatever. I'm not a hunter, so excuse me if I sound stupid. But you're up in a tree stand and you hit something. They're not going to want you coming out of that tree stand. They're going to want to go out there and they're going to get what you bagged. That's the name of the game, is who's going to get the food. So are they going to intimidate you into staying in that tree stand while they go collect it? Absolutely. Absolutely. They want to feed their family. And they are going to have a harder time feeding their family than you are going to have feeding yours. Like I said, they don't have a grocery store. They don't have any Walmart nearby that they're going to be able to get anything from. And they're going to take that food. But they will be intimidating. They will yell at you. They will wave arms at you. I've heard one person say they shook the tree they were in. I have heard very, very few, almost non-existent, of them actually hurting a hunter. And the only ones I have heard of are when they pulled a gun on them. We would like to think because we have a weapon that we are 100% safe. The fact of the matter is we are not nearly as safe as we think. The reality is they do have paranormal abilities. I know several people that have tried to pull a gun on them and the guns were immediately jammed. Once the Sasquatch was gone, those guns worked perfectly. Now, I don't think that's a coincidence. Not when you have as many people as I have that tell me that this has happened. Not to mention, again, they're telepathic. They're hooked together and linked through a collective consciousness. If there is one out there, I promise you there are more that you don't see. And if you take a shot at one, even if you hit it, there are going to be more that are going to be right on top of you. It is not worth that fight. It just isn't. Over a deer or a turkey or a hog or whatever it is you're hunting, it's not worth it. It doesn't make it right that they're taking your food, but it is the reality of the situation. And a lot of people, like you said, they're stuck in a tree stand. I mean, I don't know of anybody that's going to want to climb down off that tree stand when there's, a 10, 11 foot Sasquatch standing underneath of it. A lot of what they'll do is intimidation to be able to get that food. All they want to do is get in, get food, and take it back and feed their families. That's what they want.
Oh, and I can fully understand that, Robin. I can totally get that and see where you're coming from. The interactions that they have, I know with grizzly bears, the minute many grizzly bears have trained themselves that the minute they hear a gunshot, they're running towards it because they know that an animal has been wounded and or harvested.
Absolutely. 100%.
The Sasquatch do the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not, as an animal thing, because as we know, they are a type of a people. But the other thing too is they have this innate way of sensing when there's weapons around, when there's guns around, whether it's a bow and arrow or whether it's a gun. And if they even think that there's people out there with them, they will send guards out there to monitor them, to make sure that they're not doing anything or not getting too close to the families and the children with weapons. Now, when they are out there and they're scouting around to see why you have a weapon and they figure out that you're out hunting, you're going to get, you're going to get tailed. They're not going to hurt you. They don't want to hurt you because you're going to get them food. Years ago when I was still living in Michigan, bow season would come around. And again, I'm not a hunter. My kids always did. My ex-husband always did. I never did. And I would get up in the morning and there would be stacks of arrows on my front porch from hunters that had shot and either missed or whatever. And they would find them in the woods. They'd bring all the stack of arrows and they'd put them on my front porch. I get anywhere from 30 to 80 of these things every year, depending on how many hunters were out there. I mean, just piles and piles of them on my porch. They don't want them. They know that they can kill something. They know that they can hurt them. But they're very well aware of it. It's like if you go out in the woods, like David, you and I have talked about this before, when you go out, let them know you have a weapon because they would rather hear it and know that you're telling them that it's there and not for them. That proves that, you're being honest with them because they're going to find out you have it anyway. They always do. It's the same thing when it comes to hunting season, whether it's, a firearm or a bow and arrow or a crossbow, whatever you're going to have, even a knife. They're going to know it, whether you tell them or not. But once they pick up on it, they will have something, or not something, but one of them watching you to monitor you to make sure that weapon doesn't get that close to the families or the kids. And if they think you're out there hunting, you automatically are going to get trailed. I had a very dear friend of mine that a long time ago, before I actually met him, was out with his brother. I think it was his brother, a relative of his. And they got a deer. They followed the blood trail right to where the deer was at, only the deer wasn't laying on the ground. The blood trail stopped. They heard a slight growl. They looked up, and there's a Sasquatch standing there with the deer over its shoulder. They were fortunate enough to be intelligent enough not to try to shoot it, even though they did have weapons. They just stood there and let it take the deer and walk away. There was no problems. There was no altercations. Nobody got hurt. He still interacts with that clan because he handled it correctly. I am perfectly okay with anybody having to defend themselves. I mean, you are certainly going to protect yourself because they're not all nice. And I think that's very admirable. But the reality of it is, even with you having a gun, that does not guarantee that you are safe. And they are not all out to hurt you just because they've taken what you've hunted. They really would prefer not to have that altercation. They just want the food, just like you do. And more often than not, if they take the food, they're just going to walk away. They may yell at you. I have a friend of mine, very, very wonderful man, that he had a very bad experience because he was in a tree stand and there was one out there, and it yelled at him, just unbelievably screaming, and absolutely terrified him. He had every right to be terrified. However, when he went to go shoot and he saw how human it looked, he was unable to do it, which I think is a wonderful thing. And it never hurt him. It made noises. It simply screamed to intimidate him, to back him down so that he was not going to shoot him. He didn't get zapped, to my knowledge, and it left. And when they go in and they follow us around for prey, that's all they want is the food. And you have to really pick and choose your battles because, again, you take a shot at one of these things, they are not the only one out there. Even if you don't think they are.
To go. Robin, what does it feel like to be zapped by these?
It's really funny because I have not been zapped. Knock on wood, my day's coming, because everybody that's out there in the field with them all the time eventually gets it. I have not. I have had people standing right next to me, and this shows you the accuracy that they have, that have gotten zapped and they've dropped them to the ground. And they were literally standing within inches of me. I had a very good friend of mine that we were out in the woods. She went out in the woods with me almost every day. And they wanted me to do a blessing on the babies. So I walked over towards the babies, and she was with me when they asked me to do it. And they let her get so close, and they zapped her, and they put her little butt right on the ground. You're talking about getting hit with a frequency that can do anything from make you sick, nauseated, to give you a headache like you have never had in your life. To
Vertigo?
the point that they can, oh yeah, absolutely. You can get vertigo, you can get nauseous, you can vomit, you can get headaches. They can stop your heart. I know of a couple cases where actually the gentleman that got zapped to the point where he lost control of his bladder and his bowels. They determine where it goes. They determine the strength of it. And it is entirely up to them. Now, why I have not gotten zapped, I don't know. I really don't.
It's because they love you, Robin.
Well, a lot of them do, but there's some of them that would rather not.
Robin Haynes, everybody. Thank you, Robin. Coming up next, we have Today 101.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, Robin.
You have a wonderful night, guys. Take care.
You too, my dear. We'll talk next week.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'll be right back. I just have to run upstairs and get my cough candies. Cough candies. Cough candies. All right. Oh, listen to that cold Pepsi. Yummy. The Flat Sixer. How you doing, buddy? J Truth Seeker, good to see you. All right. Don't you hate it when you got something caught in your teeth? Hi, Kimberly Burgess. How are you? You got something caught in your teeth and you floss the living daylights out of it. And it's still there. It's like, what the hell? Hate that. All right, we're 2 minutes. $145. One minute. Thank you tonight to T-Bone with a hat trick, Deborah Rooney with a hat trick, Joe ×2, Richard ×2, Tets, Jennifer. Thank you. And here we go. Hi, Nikki in Seattle. Trevor Ironwolf, good to have you back. It's the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The Dave 101 coming up right after this. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the night, that time of the week where I yell at all of you to get off my lawn. I'm a cranky curmudgeon. My gray hair messed. It's the Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave not here. It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Leave the killer here! Yeah! Leave the killer!
It's a mess. Let's talk experiencers. Why? Well, because they're a common focus here on Spaced Out Radio. And I was thinking about this before the show, about what would convince you, the skeptics out there, about these experiences that are happening. Never mind the government, never mind proof. Who could tell a story about their experiencers and their situation? Who would you believe? Does it have to be a politician? Does it have to be someone famous? Because there has been famous people who claim to be taken by aliens, seen Bigfoot, having ghost stories. A number of years ago on X, I watched lead guitarist DJ Ashma post a security video from his house where his patio doors swung open and the curtains blew from the outside in or inside out. Whatever it was extremely paranormal. Sammy Hagar has come out as a UFO and alien experiencer. Since he was a child, the 77-year-old Red Rocker believes he's been in contact with a lady from a higher dimensional plane. Silver light hanging down. Right? Love Walks In. The lyrics to that song are all about his alien abduction. You look at somebody like Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. He claims to got aliens. Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit, another guy who is very strong about his opinions that UFOs and aliens exist. This goes beyond seeing B or C league or now D league actors and actresses going on some haunted special saying, my house was haunted. We don't need anybody more from the Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family, or Wilson Phillips going on these shows just to try and resurrect their public persona for another 15 minutes of fame. But who would you like to see? Who would you trust? Who's that one person out there that if they came up to you and said, I've got aliens, or I was backpacking in the forest and saw a Sasquatch, or my house is haunted, and this ghost pinned me down in my bed? You see, every day, people, real people, are having these encounters. And it's not just about having an encounter. The problem is they don't know where to turn. You can't put it on social media because everybody starts saying, we need evidence. Where's the proof? Why didn't you take a photo? Why didn't you take a video? They tend to forget that a lot of these incidents are not that long. They are fleeting. If you see a UFO hovering over your house, you can't yell at it, hey, Mr. UFO, can you just wait there until I go get my iPhone? Yeah, it's just on the nightstand over here. I'll be right back. Hold on, it needs face recognition. I need to turn the light on. Yeah, hold on. Now your thumbs are fumbling. I just can't get to the app. It's not how it works. If you have an alien in your bedroom, do you really want to put a trail cam in your bedroom? I got asked that one day. Why don't you set up a trail cam in your bedroom if you got all these aliens? How am I supposed to know when they are coming? It's not like it happens every night at 3:32 a.m. that Ock and Orc Gray decide that they're going to come visit old Davy and take him up for a little, I don't know, shenanigans. It's not the way it works. Like, my goodness. How do we get people to open up their eyes to those who are having strange encounters. Look, there are some charlatans and people out there who are dying to be famous. They are dying to do anything possible to get their 15 minutes of fame. Unfortunately, it's like that. A number of years ago, when I first got into this field, everybody was psychic or becoming psychic, doing readings, charging for readings, doing Facebook Lives when those first started. Hey, come on in. We're going to do a reading here. Excuse me, I apologize. Okay, we hear it all. We hear it all. And now everybody wants to be the skeptic. These phenomena don't care what you do for a living. They don't care how much money you have in the bank. They don't care what kind of music you listen to. They don't care what football team you support. They don't care who you vote for. They don't care about your religion. They don't care about your race, your creed, your sexuality. But it's the community that keeps making us look like fools to those who already don't want to believe us. I had one person, a young person, getting into this field the other day, tell me that she helps ghosts and spirits determine their gender identity. I thought I had heard it all. Yeah. I've had people say on this show that at any time, anywhere, they can have triangles come in and divert the men in black from wherever they are. I have people calling themselves dragon slayers right in the middle of public, shopping in a shopping mall. And this dragon popped up from one of the vents, and he had to kill the dragon right in the mall, and everybody was cheering him on. I'm pretty open-minded. But it's stories like that that really help me understand why we're always behind the 8 ball and why people in our own field do not want to support what we do. They want experiencers to shut the hell up because we are dumbing this down. For every person who says something stupid about their experience, we do have somebody who is being stupid hiding behind the word science. You know, I've been critical about that. I'm very open about that. Most people in this field haven't done a scientific experiment since they were probably in the 10th grade. But here they are conducting science, trying to figure out what Bigfoot is. They can tell a deer hair from a human hair, from a Sasquatch hair, from a dog hair, from a pubic hair. It's ridiculous. We always seem to shoot ourselves in our own feet. The experiences are very real. Let that be known. Too many people who've never met each other are having the exact same experiences and can't understand why, where it happens. How can you have two people who've never met before, say one in Toronto and the other one in Phoenix, meet at a conference in Seattle and realize that they know each other, they know each other's names, and they've only ever met on craft? How do they know? There is a lot of high strangeness going around. But we got to stop the dumb. The dumb on both sides. The dumb of the people who are sitting there trying to over-exaggerate the truth behind the experiences. and the dumb of not believing the experiencers who are trying to be tried and true because this has affected them personally, emotionally, and they don't know what to do. They don't have a voice in their own community. Facebook eats them alive. X eats them alive. Who the hell are they supposed to talk to? How do you build the right contacts? How do you know who to trust? Who's not going to use your story and bait you into telling you their story so they can put it in a book and try and make profit? Seen that happen many a times. It's anarchic, it's archaic, and it's wrong. I think most experiences out there, at least 95% of the people, are telling the truth. They're honest about what's happened to them. They're honest about what they've seen. And they are honest about what they can recall and remember. That's a good thing. But we can't keep giving the entire community a black eye because of the 5% who are a bunch of nimrods. And for the skeptics out there, no, there isn't any proof. There's no proof at all. I know one skeptic out there, he's all like, you should just keep quiet unless you can prove me that your story is real. It's one of them fake scientists out there. Otherwise, it's just a story. But he believes his wife, who's an experiencer. How does that work? We eat our own. That's why. We're wanting to cut someone down so that way we can look so truthful. That's what makes this community not fun. I have fun doing this show. I really do. I have a blast. I look forward to it each and every night. What I don't like is when people crap on other people just for telling what happened to them. That doesn't really fill my heart with love, to put it politely. There's nothing wrong with anybody opening their minds out there. Open your mind to the possibilities. Open your mind to the positivity. The power of positivity is amazing. And trust me, this is coming from me, who is very open about my depression and anxiety. Very open. Experiencers are allowed to tell their stories just as much as the government is allowed to lie to us about what they know about UFOs and other phenomena out there. If we're not going to give the experiencers the opportunity to speak, why are you in this community? Don't give me the critical thinking jargon, because from what I've learned from experiencers, they are their biggest critics. They try to debunk everything that goes on. They don't accept everything at face value. They may have an open mind, but at least they can think critically and honestly on whether or not their situation actually happened. That's what I do. And most people that I've run into who've had aliens, UFOs, Bigfoots, ghosts, gnomes, everything else in between, they're their own biggest enemy, their biggest skeptic, and the biggest person they need to convince. That's why the experiencer is important. Let's get to the news.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises! I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
A Texas man has the internet dying laughing for the obituary he penned for his father. Charles Boehm of Houston candidly honored his father, Robert Boehm, who passed away at the age of 74. Oh, so young. The write-up was not intended to be disrespectful, but rather an honest tribute to the man who raised him. Robert Adolph Bohm, in accordance with his lifelong dedication to his own personal brand of decorum, muttered his last unintelligible and likely unnecessary curse on October 6, 2024, shortly before tripping backward over something stupid bleeping thing and hitting his head on the floor, the obituary began. Bohm details his father's beginnings and of his dad's birth in 1950, he wrote. God immediately and thankfully broke the mold and attempted to cover up the evidence. The man went on to recap how his father met his mother, explaining, raised Catholic, Robert managed to get his wife Diane pregnant 3 times fast enough just to barely miss getting drafted into the Vietnam War by fathering Michelle, John, and Charlotte between 1967 and 1972, the obituary continued. Much later, with Robert possibly concerned about the brewing conflict in Grenada, Charles was born in 1983, the youngest son noted on his own birth. Charles goes on to mention his father's penchant for shooting, recalling how he managed to blow not 1 but 2 holes in the dash of his own car on 2 separate occasions. The son also noted how his father worked as a semi-professional truck driver, not to be confused with a professional semi-truck driver, also collected antique weaponry and harmonicas, the latter of which caused his beloved dog to howl continuously at the odd hours of the night to entertain his many neighbors, and occasionally to give to his many, many grandchildren and great-grandchildren to proudly play loudly during long road trips with their parents. Charles detailed how his mother passed away earlier this year, explaining, God finally showed mercy upon Diane, getting her the heck out of here for some well-deserved and well-earned peace and quiet. He wrote, without Diane to gleefully entertain, Robert shifted his creative focus to the entertainment of you, the fine townspeople of Clarendon, Texas. Charles added, we all done our best to enjoy weather Robert's antics up to this point, but he's God's problem now. The obituary writer said to the Washington Post, he was shocked by how many people in his father's town loved his dedication. We all visited him when he could, and the good people at Clarendon looked on him and helped him out a lot, they said. That's good. It's great when you can honor your parents like that. Good job. Good job. Let's move on here. A judge in northern Greece on Thursday imposed a suspended 1-month prison sentence on a man convicted of disturbing his neighbors by repeatedly sneaking into their properties to, get this, smell their shoes. That is a weird fetish, man. The 28-year-old Greek man told the court that he was unable to explain his behavior and his perversion, which he said had caused him great embarrassment. He stressed that he had no intention of breaking the law or harming anybody, and neighbors testified that he never displayed any sign of aggression during his nocturnal sniffing visits. The man was arrested before dawn on October 8th in the small town of Sindos. Police had been called after a neighbor found the defendant in his front yard sniffing the family shoes, which had been left outdoors to air out. The court heard that there had been at least 3 similar incidents in the past 6 months, despite neighbors having asked the defendant's family to get him to stop. The man was ordered to attend therapy sessions. I should hope so. That's really not cool. Finally tonight, an oblivious anti-Israel TikToker filmed herself angry as ever, so mad she wasn't going to take it anymore, and she tore down the first blue and white flags outside of a New Jersey restaurant. Well, here's the problem with this. They weren't Israeli flags. They were Greek flags. The time I mistakenly thought the flag for Greece was for Israel and took the restaurant's flags down, OMG, the woman who goes by Ambamelia on social media stated, so she embarrassed herself, has more than 4 million views on this, so you've got to wonder if it's a prank. Look at this crap, she said in the footage as she uses one of the eatery's patio chairs to rip down a string of Greek flags hanging outside Effie's Euros in Montclair, New Jersey. Free Palestine, bitch, she said, before turning to a baffled employee inside the establishment and asking, "What are you looking at?" That's our world we live in right now. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocket in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your car, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friend,
Make a mistake. We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. But if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right. Okay, good. I'm like 38 minutes away from ripping these socks off and throwing them in the garbage because of the holes in my toe. Oh, it's driving me nuts. Just driving me nuts. It's crazy. Crazy. All right, let's go there. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go there. Come on. There. Bingo. Bang. And boom. Just getting set up here. Give me 2 seconds. Boom. 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 All right. There should be. Almost done. Almost done. Boom. 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 All right. Hi, everybody. Does everybody get a chance today to tug on Tim Mothman's goatee? Ozzy Ange, how's hubby's poker game? Paisley Parker, how you doing? Paul Demon, how are you? Let me know when you're going, Aussie Ange. I'd like to meet up with you guys for a weekend. That'd be fun. I can now stick 3 toes in my sock hole. Driving me crazy. Driving me batshit crazy right now. I can't show you because my groin muscle is still bruised. Deboruni, I'd let you massage my toes. You demented woman, you. I love you for it. Lex Diaz. Groin muscles mean kinky love. Where the hell is your mind there, Paisley Parker? Naughty. Terrible. Where did you come from? That was right out of the ordinary there. I think that's the one. Is it?
Your host, Dave Scott.
I don't know how you tie in kinky love to a hernia. I do that one. Yeah, I did. All right. I'm still lost. Tim Mothman, if you're getting this, fill me in. I ain't getting it. Somebody use a swing wrong or something? Could be right, Vanessa. Moody Mongol, how are you? Paisley Parker, you better go get an SOR lube shirt from our store. You better go get an SOR Lube t-shirt from our store. Where's Mandy, the haunted doll, Howard? By the way, hello. She's 2.5 hours north of me in Quesnel, British Columbia, in the Quesnel Museum. Quesnel spelt Quesnel. That's where Mandy is. Paisley's all over the map. Now she's talking about God versus insurance. I remember during my daytime job once, I had this young kid take a life insurance policy. Came back a few weeks later. He's like, I want to cancel. Or 3 months later, he's like, I want to cancel it. I'm like, why? He goes, because I was talking to people at my church about it, and they said, it's a bad thing to have. And I said, yeah. I said, well, if something happens to you, I said, your mom takes care of your dad who has Parkinson's, and you're paying, as the oldest son, paying the bills for the farm. I said, what happens if something happens to you? Who's going to make your payment? He goes, I'll have my trust in God. I said to him, that's wonderful. I have my trust and faith in God too. I said, but the last thing that I know, or the one thing that I've learned, is that as much as I believe in God, he's never opened up his checkbook to pay my bills. He kept the life insurance policy. I got to take these damn things off. This is driving me nuts. Can't even get through this. Terrible. Here. I'll show you the hole. That's the hole right there. Right there. That's the hole in my Jeep socks. That's the hole that's been bothering me all night. I just got to rip this one up. Make sure that these never get used again. Going in the garbage bag. Usually I am barefoot. Air conditioning. Who needs air conditioning? It's like -1 outside, Aussie Ange. We had snow earlier today. Not like you Aussies who every day is a 38-degree day. How many of you wear Crocs? Be honest. How many of you are wearing Crocs right now? Or have them right beside your bed or your couch waiting for you to slip on? Summertime, I never wear pants, man. Human Carl. What's happening, Human Carl? I may be looking for a different pair of Crocs. These ones are a couple of years old that I wear. They're ugly as sin, but you know what? They are still the most comfortable shoes ever. They are ugly. Yes, they are, Aussie Ange. They are ugly, but they are comfortable as anything. You know, when I was really hurt, they were the only shoes that I could wear around my house because I got hardwood floor all through my house. And they were the only shoes that I could wear. Otherwise, my feet would kill me. Is it really supposed to snow tomorrow? 100 miles? Oh, Vanessa's got hers on. Very nice. Very nice, Vanessa. Thank you for the Croc update. Appreciate that. Weather. Network 1 mile house. It's -2 Celsius right now. So it's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. We're at the low point now, which is nice. Holy cow. There is a chance of snow for tomorrow. That's ridiculous. Where are we here? Oh, it's rain and snow. That's where we are. Freaking ridiculous. Six months of snow coming. Oh. All right. I got to get ready to go to bed. Tomorrow night on the show, it's Guru time. The crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, will be back. Thank you, Joe ×2, Jennifer, Richard ×2, T-Bone ×1, 2, 3, Deb with 4, Richard with 2, Tets with 1. Appreciate the love. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Have a good one.
Healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.